Hello everyone and welcome to today's Beyond Blue webinar. Today's discussion is on better mental health at work and why it matters. We are pleased to welcome our presenters for today, Pippa Rose. This webinar is live and interactive. You are encouraged to participate by posting questions to the presenter, which can be typed into the chat box located at the bottom left-hand side of your screen. All questions will be answered throughout and at the end of the presentation. And if you're experiencing difficulty hearing the sound during the webinar, please dial the 1-800 support number listed in the chat box. I'd now like to pass you over to Pippa to begin.
So I appreciate that many of you might be aware of Beyond Blue and the Heads Up program, but I just thought I'd give you a bit of background before we get started. So Beyond Blue is an independent, not-for-profit organisation with our vision to have that all Australians achieve their best mental health. And I'll go in our definition of mental health to further explain that a little bit later in the presentation. So Beyond Blue has a number of program areas, and the program area that I represent today is the workplace area. The workplace team was formed in 2004. We started working in that space in 2004. And during this time, we found that many Australian businesses know that mental health in the workplace is important, but they didn't necessarily know where to start, and some felt that it wasn't their role or responsibility. In 2013, the Mentally Healthy Workplace Alliance was formed, and this was the first time that there was a collaboration between government, the mental health sector, and the business sector. And this coming together was to realise the importance of mentally healthy workplaces and to see workplace mental health as no longer just a nice to have, but rather a necessity. Out of the Alliance came Heads Up, which I will go into some further detail later in the presentation, which is a really great initiative to improve the mental health of Australian workplaces. So I've just listed here the topics that I'll be covering today. So we'll start with going into detail of why workplace mental health matters from various perspectives, and we'll touch on how we all might better understand mental health by looking at the mental health continuum. Within this context and understanding, I'll then move on to discuss what a mentally healthy workplace looks like and how you can go about creating a mentally healthy workplace and point you in the direction of some resources. So hopefully at the end of this presentation, you'll walk away with some practical steps and ideas that you can take back to your respective workplaces. So looking at why mental health matters within the workplace, there's an increasing amount of evidence that workplaces can play an important and active role in maintaining the mental health and well-being of their workers. Every business has a legal and moral responsibility to provide a safe and fair workplace. Creating a mentally healthy workplace has many benefits for both employers and employees. A well-designed workplace should support individual mental health, which can then lead to reduced absenteeism, increased employee engagement, and improved productivity. Before we go into detail on why workplace health matters, it's important that we have an understanding of the term mental health. And it's an expression that we use frequently, so it might surprise you that the term mental health is frequently misunderstood. So mental health is often used as a substitute for mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety conditions, schizophrenia, and others. But the definition according to the World Health Organization outlines that mental health is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So one way to explain the difference is to imagine mental health as a spectrum, with everyone's mental health varying during their life, and for some even on a daily basis. So mental health exists on a broad continuum or a range, from positive, healthy functioning at one end, which I will refer to as the green end, through to severe symptoms or conditions that may impact on everyday life and activities, and that's looking at the red end. So mental health is about being cognitively, emotionally, and socially healthy, the way we think, feel, and develop relationships, and not merely the absence of a mental health condition. At the green end, people tend to show resilience and high levels of well-being. This doesn't mean that they never experience any challenges to their mental health. Rather, they draw on a range of coping mechanisms and supports to effectively manage any difficulties as they come along. It's important to remember that mental health is complex. The fact that someone is not experiencing a mental health condition doesn't necessarily mean that their mental health is flourishing. Likewise, it's possible to be diagnosed with a mental health condition while feeling well and productive in many aspects of life, including the workplace. Looking at the continuum from a workplace perspective, it's not enough to wait until people are in the orange or red and then act or implement strategies. You really want to create an environment where all staff, or as many staff as you can, are in the green so that they're thriving, productive and enjoying being at work and fully engaged. And you want an environment where if people are approaching that orange, yellow or red phase, that they know that it's okay to put up their hands and ask for help. So I'll go into facts of why mental health matters shortly, but I firstly want to set the scene as to the state of mental health in Australia. It's important that we discuss some facts and look at the overall picture. So tragically, 8 Australians take their own lives every day, 6 of whom are males. This figure is almost 2.5 times the national road toll. For every suicide, approximately 30 attempt. And when you consider that these individuals have husbands or wives, partners, children, families, friends, work colleagues, the ripple effect of these deaths are profound. The issue touches countless Australians each day, every year. Mental health conditions, especially depression, are present in a high proportion of people who suicide, many of whom are untreated at the time of death. Today, approximately 3 million people in Australia are living with depression and anxiety. These are conditions that can be effectively treated and the individual can make a full recovery with the right support. To achieve this, though, early intervention is important. Sadly, we know that only approximately 50% of people experiencing depression and anxiety seek treatment. Imagine if we could create environments where more people felt like they could put their hand up and admit that they're struggling early, so that effective help could be put into place. And with the majority of those affected by mental health conditions being of working age, the workplace plays an important role in supporting these people. So when we talk about why workplace mental health matters, the first area I will look at is the financial benefits of implementing a mentally healthy workplace. So Beyondblue commissioned PricewaterhouseCoopers to undertake a report, and that found that there is a good news story and a significant return on investment as a result of taking action in the workplace. The report found that for every dollar invested in effective mental health initiatives, that there's an average return of investment of $2.30. This can change from one industry to the next or business size, and I'll just show you some examples of this. So for some businesses or industries, the return on investment can be even higher than that $2.30 amount. So I won't go into each of them individually, but it's clear to see that there are significant financial benefits to be made, particularly for some industries. The next aspect I want to cover is why implementing a mentally healthy workplace makes good legal sense. So there's a number of legislative obligations regarding mental health in the workplace that apply to employees and employers. So taking care of yourself and your employees also means being in the know about legal rights and responsibilities. I've listed these various pieces of legislation in the table on this slide, and I'll go through each one of them. So firstly, work health and safety. So both employers and employees have obligations, with employers obliged to provide a safe and healthy workplace, and means that the mental health of employees is regarded in a similar way to physical safety. So this means that the working environment does not harm a person's mental well-being or aggravate an existing condition. For an employee perspective, it means taking care of their own and others' health and safety. Looking at discrimination, so if you experience a mental health condition, you are protected under Commonwealth Disability Discrimination Act and various state and territory human rights legislation. There's no obligation on an employee to disclose if they do have a mental health condition unless it affects their ability to perform in their role or it affects their safety or the safety of others. If an employee does disclose that they do have a mental health condition and it is, they need some assistance with undertaking their duties, an employer is required to modify the working environment, but is only required to make reasonable accommodations with the thought for the needs of the business. So generally, these sorts of adjustments are not costly or impractical. Looking at privacy, an employee has the right to have information about their mental health condition kept confidential from their colleagues, and that comes out of the Privacy Act. And an employee should be careful to advise their employer about how they wish this information to be used if they do disclose. An employee with a mental health condition does have an obligation if it is in relation to protect the safety of their co-workers. Looking at bullying, so just to reiterate what the definition of bullying is, it's when a person or a group of people repeatedly behaves unreasonably towards a worker or a group of workers and creates a risk to health and safety. It does not include reasonable management action carried out in a reasonable manner. Australia has extensive provisions in place to counter bullying both in schools and the workplace. Leaving aside the legal obligations of an employee and employer, in our experience, it is important when dealing with a mental health condition in the workplace that the individual and the business work together to their mutual benefit. I'm now going to show you a brief video which will cover off on some of the findings from a study that was conducted by TNS, commissioned by Beyondblue, and we can discuss the findings of that following the video.
For employers, promoting good mental health in the workplace has never been more important. And a recent study by TNS Social Research has provided an insight into the current state of mental health in Australian workplaces. It showed clearly just how important it is for workplaces to better meet the mental health needs of employees. It's revealing that 91% of workers say it's important to work in a mentally healthy workplace, but only 52% agreed that their workplace fits that description. 21% of employees indicated that they'd taken time off in the past 12 months due to stress, anxiety, depression, or feeling mentally unwell. And those who consider their workplaces to be mentally healthy are 4 times less likely to take time off work for mental health conditions compared to their counterparts in mentally unhealthy workplaces. The study also showed that there is a stigma in a workplace around mental health conditions, with up to 1 in 3 people having reservations about working with a person experiencing anxiety or depression. Interestingly, there was a high expectation among workers that employers should assist those experiencing anxiety or depression, with 75% believing that their workplace should provide the support. These findings challenge Australia's business leaders to take action to improve mental health in their workplaces. And the Heads Up initiative has been developed to help Australian business meet this challenge.
So, just to summarise the key points outlined in the video, it's clear that there's a growing body of evidence pointing to the need for Australian businesses to take the mental health of their employees as seriously as they take physical health and safety. I think most of you listening today would agree that many workplaces have taken significant steps to improve physical safety. We can easily identify risks such as a trip hazard or a workplace that's not physically safe. However, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the advances in managing mental health in the workplace. As illustrated in the video, the report found that mentally healthy workplaces are as important to Australian employees as physically safe workplaces. However, workplaces are not meeting employees' expectations. So 88% of the workers surveyed reported that physical health in the workplace was important to them, and 76% believed that their workplace was physically safe. By comparison, the report found that 91% of workers believe that mental health in the workplace is important. But despite this, only 52% of employees believe their workplace is mentally healthy, further supporting the argument that more needs to be done to address mental health and safety within our workplaces and the mental wellbeing of our workers. But let's look at it from a positive perspective. So on the flip side, we know that taking a proactive approach to mental health helps build your reputation as an employer of choice. and in turn provides a competitive advantage over other employers. This will help you recruit and retain the best and brightest people. A healthy workplace can improve staff morale and engagement, reduce staff turnover, and improve interpersonal relationships among employees. Research conducted by Instinct and Reason found that nearly half of Australian employees say a mentally healthy workplace is important when looking for a job, and that it was the second most important factor in an employee's decision to accept a new position, and this was ranked only behind salary. The research also found that when employees recognise their workplace invests in mental health, 60% are more committed to the organisation and 60% say that they're less likely to seek employment elsewhere, whilst 45% of employees say that they've left a workplace because of a poor mental health condition. All of this information tells us that creating a mentally healthy workplace is a critical factor in truly becoming an employer of choice. Simply put, a mentally healthy workplace is a workplace where people enjoy working. It's a great place to be. And when it comes to retention, you guessed it, mentally healthy workplaces keep employees more engaged so that they're less likely to leave. Some findings from the employee of choice research conducted by Beyondblue looked at a mentally healthy workplace that is friendly, supportive, promoted and protected the mental health of its employees was the second most power inhibitor of a worker leaving their job. The Future of Work report also found that diversity in the workforce can have a significant positive impact in the overall business. Early career employees were more likely than more experienced employees to rate diversity as a high priority career aspiration. And when I talk about diversity here, I'm not only talking about gender, age, ethnicity and sexuality. I'm talking about people who live, work, play, thrive and struggle with mental health challenges. I think it's also really important to note that improving mental health in the workplace is a fantastic opportunity for employers to improve the well-being of their employees. By broadening the focus of mental health, and when you go beyond strategies to avoid ill health, incorporating strategies to develop positive mental health, employers are able to realise the full benefits of a thriving workforce. There's an increasing body of evidence that makes a compelling case for taking action to nurture individuals' well-being. So this is really looking at the mental health of all of the workforce, not just those who might be experiencing a mental health condition. Doing so not only benefits individuals and makes organisations better places to work in, the evidence shows that people who achieve good standards of well-being at work are more likely to display a range of skills that will also benefit their employers. In workplaces that are set up to foster well-being, people tend to be more creative, more loyal, more productive, and perform better in terms of customer satisfaction. There was an extensive piece of research done in the UK which looked at 16,000 employees over a range of different industries and organisations. And this research found that higher employee productivity was associated with better psychological well-being. And they argued that this large sample size and mix of occupations included in the research means that the results can be reviewed as generalisable to other employee groups. However, the evidence in the report demonstrated that engaging employees is just one part of the story. So improving well-being implies a well-rounded approach when enabling employees to maximise their personal resources, in particular reference to good work-life balance. So creating an organisational structure that enables employees to flourish and take pride in what they do, supporting people to function to the best of their abilities, both as individuals and in collaboration with their colleagues, and producing a positive overall experience of work. So this not only benefits the workplace, but I think it's really important to note that it benefits the individual's family, friends, and the wider community. So this slide really just highlights the two factors that I've just recently talked about. The opportunity in order to improve mental health at work does have great levels of improving employee wellbeing and higher productivity. as well as higher employee engagement. And there's some research there on that slide, which you can refer to if you'd like to look at some more information. So now I've highlighted the many benefits and opportunities for workplaces to adopt mentally healthy practices, I now want to touch on what constitutes a mentally healthy workplace. So let's consider the definition of a mentally healthy workplace. I particularly like this one from Guarding Minds at Work, which is a Canadian website which has some fantastic resources if you would like to go onto their website. Most of them are all free to access. But their definition is that a mentally healthy workplace is a place where people can work smart, contribute their best effort, be recognised for their work, and go home at the end of the day with energy left over. So particularly that last point, go home at the end of the day with energy left over. I think this is a really powerful reminder that work is just one important part of our lives, but we also need to go home with our batteries charged and so that we can engage in all facets of a fulfilling life. So just want to refer back to the continuum now. And look at it from a workplace perspective. I did mention this earlier, but just really want to reiterate that when looking at creating a mentally healthy workplace, it's not about waiting until people are in the orange or the red and then implementing action. It's really about creating an environment where as many staff as possible are in that green state so that they're thriving, productive, enjoying being at work and fully engaged. And you also want to create an environment where as people might move into the yellow and orange, depending on either workplace or family factors, they know that it's okay to put their hands up and ask for help. And ideally, you want an environment where people look out for those around them and pick up whether their colleagues might be moving into the yellow orange, and they have the confidence and the skills to check in and make sure that they're doing okay. So while the places that we work come in all shapes and sizes, a mentally healthy working environment generally has a few things in common. So we look at describing a healthy workplace as having an integrated approach so that they promote well-being and look at the positive aspects of being at work, minimise workplace stress, and look at the various risks that might be present in a work environment. And they're an environment where staff who might have poor mental health feel safe to talk about their condition, are supported and have equal opportunities. Mentally healthy workplaces are benefits for all employees and their families, and it's important to note that everyone has a role in creating a mentally healthy workplace. It's a shared responsibility. So we've covered quite a lot of ground in today's talk, and I've done obviously all of the talking. We'll have some time for questions towards the end. But I just want to take you through some of the resources that we have available. As I mentioned before, this is the first of what we propose to be a series of webinars. And it made sense, obviously, to start at the first step. So why mental health is important and why it matters to help launch and get you off the ground with implementing a mentally healthy workplace. So in future webinars, we do plan to go into more of that detail. But in terms of where to start, it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of various resources out there. Heads Up is a great place to start if you are interested in learning more and finding out about some steps that you can take in creating a mentally healthy workplace. It's all free and all the information on there is evidence-based and specifically designed for workplaces. So whether you're an employee, a business owner or a manager in a small or large organisation, there are several resources that can help specific to your situation. So I'll go through some of the various areas in the website, but I'd really encourage you to go onto it, have a look around. You can register as a Heads Up registered user, which will allow you to receive updates and newsletters on various new initiatives and also keep up to speed with anything happening in the workplace mental health area. So our website has recently been updated. So for those of you who haven't been on for a while, I would really encourage you to go and have a look. So Heads Up was designed to support workplaces to create mentally healthy workplaces. It uses case studies, personal stories, videos, tools and e-learning modules to demonstrate and educate individuals and workplaces on what they can do to improve the mental health of their workplace. Just reminding that it is free, so it's really useful if you're looking at that place to get started. So the website is divided into 4 areas in which you'll find on the menu bar in yellow, and it's divided, the section 1 is for HR, work health and safety and business leaders wanting to learn more about creating a healthy workplace, and within that section it goes through some specific strategies that you can implement and also a framework in which you can adopt if starting out on your journey to create a mentally healthy workplace. So section 2 is for individuals wanting to take care of themselves, and it really is important to note that Heads Up is not only just for workplaces, that it really does have some fantastic resources for an individual, looking at taking care of themselves and also looking at supporting others. And that's where section 3 comes in. So this has got some really great tools for managers who might be looking to support direct reports or colleagues looking to support other colleagues. Things like learning how to have a conversation with people and identifying signs and symptoms of when someone may be experiencing some mental health condition. Section 4, you can order some hard copy resources, seek some face-to-face training, and there's some great free online training and e-modules that you can access. So it's quite easy to find what you're looking for, but if you need further assistance, there's also the search function at the top of the web page. So within healthy workplaces, I've just put here some of the key areas that it covers. So if you want further information on why it matters, which is what I've covered today, there's a great return on investment tool, and there's also some further information that can put some of the reports that I referenced, such as the PwC report. You can download that and have a read if you're interested in finding out more information. Some further detail on legal rights and responsibilities, disclosing mental health condition, whether that might be the right decision for you. Some further detail on workplace stress and bullying. So looking at your own mental health, looking after yourself, and there's some specific small business information here as well. It was recognised that obviously there's some unique stresses faced by small business, so there's some really great information on there if that is relevant to yourself. Information on working with a mental health condition and some tips on that, and some further detail on bullying and what is good mental health. So supporting others covers if you're concerned about a workmate, if you're managing someone with a mental health condition, and some detail on reasonable adjustments, which some of you may find useful, providing ongoing support, and really importantly, having that conversation, which is a real key step to supporting someone who might be experiencing signs and symptoms of a mental health condition. Training and resources, I would really encourage you to look at that. We've got a number of training programs that are SCORM compliant, which does allow you to put these on your own learning development systems and track who has completed them and keep a track of that, which can be very useful. Personal stories and case studies are very powerful, particularly when starting off a mental health strategy in your workplace, to communicate and to really make mental health something that is freely talked about within the workplace. And there's details there on our toolbox talks and our national workplace program. I just want to quickly go into the toolbox talks. They're a really cost-effective way of raising awareness of mental health issues in the workplace and helping managers, employees, give them the skills to look after each other in the workplace. It's a free package that can be used by workplace educators to train executives, managers or workplace champions, and it includes all the tools that you'll need, such as participant and educator handbooks, PowerPoint presentations, posters and booklets. So it's a really good way to be able to spread the message about a mentally healthy workplace within your own environment, and it's all free to access. We've got some online resources that have been developed. Each resource takes about 20 minutes to complete and can be used on your desktop, laptop and tablet. And as I mentioned there, some of the resources are SCORM compliant, so important to your learning management system if you have one. So before I go on to questions, I just want to finish by returning to the definition of a mentally healthy workplace. So I just think this is very relevant and important for us to keep in mind. So a workplace is a place where people can work smart, contribute their best effort, be recognised for their work and go home at the end of the day with energy left over. So valuing and improving mental health in the workplace is an untapped opportunity for all of us. It costs little in outlays, but it does take leadership, creative thinking, willpower and teamwork. Taking this proactive approach to mental health builds your reputation as an employer of choice, helping you recruit and retain the best and brightest. But imagine what you're missing out by ignoring the potential of so many in the community with mental health conditions. So we look forward to your participation in future webinar sessions, with the next one looking to focus on getting started with your mental health strategy and some tips for implementation. And we would welcome any feedback on particular topics that you as the participants feel would be really useful for your own workplace, and we'd be really keen to listen to your feedback. So I'm going to have a look at some of the questions now. So if you've got them, send them through and we'll have a go at answering them. So I see the able to get a copy of the presentation. Certainly, yes, you will. So we will be sending out a copy of the presentation to all of those that are registered. And we'll also have the webinar available on our Heads Up website in that fourth tab that I talked about with training and resources. There's a webinar tab which this will be put up on, as well as future webinars and some other topics of interest. So I can see here that Joe has asked, is there support for people dealing with frequent change in the workplace? And I think that's often a common issue within workplaces due to various reasons. And I think that sort of is looked at within that sort of risk management framework, looking at putting in place communication mechanisms and ways to support those going through various change. So I would suggest for further detail on that, going into the strategies for mental health at work on the website, we'll be able to provide further direction about some of those tips and skills that you can put in place. I can see the video. Nicole has asked if the video you can show it available to show to management. Yes, certainly. That video is available on our website under the Healthy Workplaces tab when it looks why it matters. There's the full report which you can review as well as that video, and that can be a really powerful tool in trying to sway management and get that leadership commitment that you might need to get things going. Okay. With Bella has asked, what is the best way to measure progress with organisations' mentally healthy workplace strategy? Well, there's a number of ways I guess you can measure how you're progressing. When we talk about going through creating a mentally healthy workplace and implementing a strategy, we talk about doing a needs analysis at the beginning, which involves looking at your existing workplace data, potentially undertaking a survey or a risk assessment to identify where your baseline is. So where are you currently at? And then as part of that whole cycle after implementation, we would encourage you to evaluate. So that would mean looking at the data that you initially used on your needs analysis and tracking progress. There's also a number of new things in the pipeline which look at performance metrics and benchmarks for workplaces. So as soon as that becomes available, we will be putting that on our website and providing further information. Okay, I can see that Sal has asked how can we make sure staff are looking after themselves, and she's used the example of some of our staff might need to exercise, but we can't make them do that. Look, I certainly agree that you can't make people or force them to take care of themselves, whether that be physically or mentally. But I think in order to, I guess, assist them in doing that, I think promoting the vast benefits of doing physical and looking after yourself physically and mentally is very important. So whether that be through regular communication, through staff initiatives on promoting all of the benefits, potentially having a speaker or someone as a bit of a, a guest to sort of promote those benefits can be a start. I think it's not obviously a quick fix. It's something that needs to be integrated into a broader strategy and can be an ongoing process. So I wouldn't sort of give up at the first try. I would really embed those sorts of things into a broader health, safety and wellbeing strategy. And also really useful can be getting the leadership team to demonstrate the importance of that. So whether they can come and speak to all staff and sort of walk the talk to actually demonstrate that they're on board and they're being part of things. So Rachel has mentioned a follow-up webinar, Barry, getting started. So we don't have a date as yet, but I imagine that it will be in the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks. So for those that are registered, we can certainly provide a reminder of when that webinar will be, and it'll also be available on our website once it is listed. Nicole has asked, would you recommend a survey with workers to create an initial strategy? A survey can be really useful as to sort of create that initial baseline of where your workplace is sitting. It probably shouldn't be used in isolation. Obviously, it needs to be taken in the context of other workplace factors. There's a number of surveys that are evidence-based and are freely available for workplaces to use. They're available on, freely available for workplaces to use. They're available on our website, but that Guarding Minds at Work that I mentioned, which is a Canadian resource, has information. There's the Health and Safety Executive, which is a UK one. There's also our action plan tool on the website, and the People at Work survey, which is a Queensland survey. So I would encourage you to look through and see which one best suits your individual workplace. And it can be a really good way to get started. So Janet has asked, she said, we've implemented an employee assistance program, and do you think this was a good idea? I think anything that supports people in achieving their best mental health is a good idea. Obviously, just supporting those who might be exhibiting signs and symptoms is only part of a full mentally healthy workplace strategy. So whilst it's a great start, it's important to look at how that fits into a very holistic wellbeing strategy and considering managing risks, looking at promoting the positives of work, as well as supporting people in the workplace. And an EAP is great, but there's also other measures that you can do to support people. Paul has asked, do you have any templates for mental health plans or complete? I'm assuming you mean action plans. We actually have recently released an implementation guide for health services, which, although tailored to health services, has some very useful generic tips on getting started. And at the end of that resource, there is an action plan template. It has one that has been partially filled out, and it also has an editable PDF version that you can complete for yourself. Also, we have our online action plan tool. So if you go onto the website, you can actually input the areas that might be relevant to your workplace, and that will outline some actions that are appropriate and direct you to where those resources are. So Hayley has asked, our activities are wide and varied, yet engagement is low. Have you thought of creating wellbeing champions in the workplace, and do you have any experience of this? Certainly having a good governance structure and having some champions is really, can be very useful in sort of increasing that engagement and that momentum with a workplace strategy. So depending on the size and the nature of your workforce, I think having groups or various people that really do promote the benefits of some of the activities that you're doing can really be a powerful tool in increasing that momentum. So Cami has said, are there links on the website for further resources? And absolutely, yes, there is. I would really encourage you to go on. It can be, there is a lot of information, so please do take the time to look. There's downloadable PDFs and lots of various links, so I would certainly recommend you look at that. So what would mental health first aid training cover and involve? So that's asked by Louise. Well, mental health first aid is something that Beyondblue don't personally run, but there is many organisations that do run that. And I guess it's looking at responding to someone who might be exhibiting mental health conditions, signs and symptoms, be able to respond to those in appropriate ways. So it's not training them to become psychologists. It's really encouraging to know where the support and resources are. So similarly to a first aid officer in the workplace who, you know, comes across someone who might have fallen downstairs and broken their leg, they're not going to treat the leg. They'll put you know, they'll put them in touch with someone who can actually do that. So it's like linking them to resources, and really that's focused on that more red end of the spectrum, where if I want to relate that to that continuum. So Marlene has talked about consultation opportunities to support managers and supervisors to discuss how to deal with issues in their workplace. Might need some further clarification around that question. Marlene, I guess importantly, but having conversations, teaching managers and supervisors to be aware of signs and symptoms are really important. And there's a whole section on managers and supervisors that you might find useful on the Heads Up website, and remembering privacy obligations of OH&S. So if someone does disclose something to you, managers and supervisors being aware of their obligations around that. I'm not sure if I have answered your query, but if not, I can certainly, if you wanted to email or provide some further detail, I'm happy to respond to that. So I think that's all the questions now. I really want to thank all of you for participating in today. It's been great to have the opportunity, and I hope that some of you will be joining us for the future webinar. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Pippa, for your presentation, and thank you to all our participants for attending today's webinar. Please stay logged in to take our online survey, which is on your screen now. We thank you in advance for your feedback and wish you a great day.